Thank you all for being here. I hope you got something to eat. Seems like you guys are, already mingling and kind of, comparing notes, which is kind of the point of something like this. I'm excited to talk with you guys about the affiliate space, and I do mean literally talk with you. As Michael alluded to, we're going to all be kind of chatting later. This is a very, as you know, diffuse and kind of closed-off ecosystem. There's not a lot of kind of universal sources of truth that tell you about the big picture, and so you really learn and get better in this space by talking to people and hearing what you guys are experiencing and comparing notes. And so hoping to do a little bit of that today. As Michael also mentioned, I cover affiliate for eMarketer. It's one of my many coverage areas. I write one report a year, and it is, unlike a lot of our eMarketer reports, relies almost entirely on third-party data. I am going to mix in a bunch of stuff that colleagues in the forecasting department have covered in other verticals, so things like retail e-com sales, things like BNPL usage, things like that. So lots to get to. You guys can't see that. I guess look up there for now. I'm sure the tech team will figure this out in about 20 seconds. But for now, this is the agenda. Oh, nice. Good. We're going to do 2023. We're going to look at what happened. We're going to kind of look a little bit at kind of the notable trends that powered that change. And we'll talk a little bit about what to watch for next year. And really, I think only about next year because, again, very hard to sort of see into the future anywhere in digital, but I think especially in affiliate. But let's get started by going all the way back to the beginning of this year. So I think those of you that, how many people attended Partnerize's Partner Day last summer? All right, a couple, three of you. Unless you skipped out after lunch, you saw my presentation and saw that at the time, my best guess for how 2022 would go would be that affiliate marketing in the US would be about a $10 billion business. That was based on some, I guess you would say, informed calculations. The affiliate business for up until the pandemic grew roughly in line with retail e-commerce growth. So that meant kind of low double digits every single year. That's a trend that we expect to continue. And so based on PMA numbers, they'd released a report that summer that projected that US affiliate was about a $9.1 billion business. So you figure 10% growth, give or take, that gets you to 10 billion. And I basically applied the same logic this year. So my expectation for this year is that US affiliate would be about an $11 billion business. Just to put that in context, that's about twice as much money as TikTok is going to make in the US this year. That's about twice the amount that advertisers will spend on influencers in 2023. It's also about the amount of money that advertisers spent on retail media if you take Amazon out of it. Obviously, Amazon is a big piece of the retail media ecosystem, and a final piece of context, that's about a third of what Amazon is going to make in ad revenue this year. So you take all that, you add it up, you factor in a bunch of different macroeconomic factors like the digital ad economy did not charge into 2023. It kind of stumbled in. Everyone was worried about a recession. Everybody was worried about, consumer spending kind of holding up. But those are factors that generally benefit affiliate. When times get tough, people get smarter. They start hunting for deals, hunting for discounts, being smarter with how they spend their money. So that should have been a reason for optimism. And you can see that reflected in what happens when you talk to practitioners. This is adapted from Michael McInerney's fantastic research on this space. And basically the takeaway for those of you that don't feel like squinting, basically a majority of marketers said that they were going to spend more money in this channel this year. It was from a low base. As you know, there are some advertisers for whom affiliate is an enormous part of their business, but by and large, it is a single-digit percentage of their spending. But often easier to increase spending in a small but important area. And so you add all of this up, and I feel like there was a lot of kind of cautious optimism about how this channel would perform in 2023. And I would say that for the most part, things under-delivered a little bit. This is data that's from Partnerize, actually. They put out this really helpful research every month that sort of shows clicks and conversions every month compared to year over year. And there's a lot of reasons for the numbers that you see up here. We'll get into them. But as you all know, this is a business that's really reliant on Q4. And so you get through Qs 1 through 3, and you think, well, maybe Q4 we'll see things turn around. And that should not be that version of the slide. Talk about squinting. Anyway, the point is that in Q4, things did not really, there was not a miraculous turnaround. So this is data, or excuse me, a picture of a chart that Rakuten published about a week ago. I could not transpose their data into a chart because they wouldn't give me their data. Thank you, Rakuten. But again, for those of you with really good eyesight, the takeaway here is that among the 4 biggest kind of types of content that publishers put out in the affiliate channel, clicks for 3 of the 4 biggest were basically down, and the remaining 4th was flat. Coupons underperformed significantly compared to last year. Deals underperformed pretty badly, although that was partly related to the kind of product assortment that was available this year. That's a channel that's very reliant on kind of consumer technology, personal electronics, and there just wasn't kind of a must-have gadget this year. Loyalty did a little better, but generally sort of flat-ish, and there's a lot of reasons for this. I think you could point to the elongated holiday season. I feel like people start talking about Black Friday on Halloween now, which is, to me, something that's a little crazy, but we'll save that for later. And consequently, with a lot of people waiting for it, it made everyone have to work kind of harder to drive the same results. So this is data that I got from Awin and ShareASale. They put this out maybe like 2 weeks ago. This is their US and Canadian markets. And you can look at this chart either from the bottom down or the top up, but the most important number is the smallest one. That's total sales growth year over year, and it's basically flat. It's 0.5%. The number in the middle is advertiser revenue growth on that network, and it grew what I would describe as an inflation-sized amount. And then you look up at the biggest bar, and you have publisher commission revenue growth, which grew at what I would describe as a bigger than inflation-sized amount. And so what does that tell you? It tells you that it was a lot harder to sort of drive the same results this year. I would say largely because consumers sort of are getting a lot pickier. They're getting a lot more, they're putting a lot more scrutiny against what they buy. Everyone is watching their dollars. And we'll dig more into this later. I think that just kind of evolving consumer attitudes and behaviors are really, really important to understanding lots of digital ecosystems, but like especially affiliate. So now that I've made all of you bummed out, let's move and talk a little bit about the sort of reasons for optimism. I want to talk a little bit about the sort of the way that this channel is used. So there are some people in this room for whom affiliate is a tactical lever that they can pull. There are others for whom it is an incredibly important strategic channel that they think about very, very carefully and use in very 3-dimensional ways. And the people in the latter camp are growing in number. So this is data from Gen 3. They unveiled this at ASE in the summertime. And the takeaway here, if you don't feel like doing the arithmetic, is that more than half of affiliate marketers are using affiliate for at least 2 parts of the funnel. A sizable percentage are using it for the full funnel. The thing that really leapt out at me is how many people are using it for post-sale and retention. So just once you get out the other side of the funnel, affiliate is there to kind of continue to drive strategic goals. This, again, just speaks to the promise and sort of traction that affiliate has for lots of advertisers as a strategic channel, which is, I think, really important and something to keep in mind as we kind of continue to move forward. I want to talk a little bit, too, about the sort of sub-channels. One of the reasons I think that affiliate is so great at being a strategic channel is because of how diffuse it is. You can use it to attack people on mobile, on desktop. You can get at them in their inboxes before sales, after sales. You can be in front of them on CTV, inside of mobile apps. And that diffuseness means there's lots of ways to sort of bake the channel into what you're doing. It also means that certain categories are growing really quickly. So this is data that I got from Awin. This is basically the growth, fastest growing sub-channels. And here you see tech providers and influencer both grew really, really healthily. Based on the numbers I shared a few minutes ago, you can tell that's from a small base, but nonetheless, it is significant. It is growing really fast. And I want to kind of spend a little bit more time on each of them. As I said before, there's a lot in tech partners. But to me, the sort of star of that category, this will not surprise Ned, is buy now, pay later. So buy now, pay later has turned into just a gigantic, really kind of cultural phenomenon, I would say. So This chart only goes back to 2021, but I can tell you that basically 5 years ago, less than 1% of Americans had ever used a BNPL service. This year, it's going to be nearly a third of Americans have used one. By 2025, it's going to be close to 4 in 10. And there's a ton of reasons that this is happening, and maybe we'll use it in a later conversation about the consumer. But because of this, they just have an incredible opportunity to sort of continue to grow as a strategic subchannel and affiliate. I'm excited to hear more from Ned about how and why that's happening. The other subchannel that I want to talk about is influencers. So I interviewed close to 24 people to write this report. Every single person that I spoke to wanted to talk with me about influencers, whether they were good, whether they were bad, how to use them, what drives them crazy about them, and so on and so forth. You guys can talk about that last bit offline. I don't want to get anyone in trouble. But the thing that I wanted to pull out here, this is again AWIN data. This just shows the nature of participants that joined their network in 2023 through the first 11 months. And that great big red bar, that's 43% of the folks that joined were influencers. They now, just at a kind of raw number level, represent an enormous swath of the publishers available in any given network. Or any given influencer program. So Perch, the Amazon aggregator, just as an example, over 2/3 of the publishers that they work with are affiliates. But as a point of comparison, 8 of the 10 most important or highest grossing affiliates in their ecosystem are media companies. So you have this weird sort of dichotomy where there's a ton of opportunity available in terms of sheer numbers, but that a lot of them are really just kind of small fish in a big crowded pond. I think one thing that's really enticing to this community about influencers is that it's a word that sort of perks up a CMO's ears and they go, oh, influencers. But when the CMO hears influencers, they think Charli D'Amelio, they think Kim Kardashian, they think Mr. Beast. Those guys might play in this space a little bit, but they are mostly not available or amenable to working on commission. They want a big fat check up front, and they want lots of other things that don't preclude you working with them on an affiliate capacity, but it does complicate it. And so just to sort of drill down a little bit further on what influencers do and how they make their money, this is data from Maverick, and it shows that, again, affiliates made real progress as a sort of source of income for influencers, but it is, as you can see, one of many. And so kind of holding an influencer's attention as an affiliate, making them or convincing them that this is a channel that they should be putting sustained attention against is difficult. And that's something that should be, I guess, borne in mind if it's a channel you're thinking of investing in more or thinking about more. Speaking of publishers using lots of different means to make more money, let's talk a little bit about just sort of the content channel and how, I guess, kind of like complicated and sophisticated it's grown. I'm excited to talk to the cool publishers table over here a little bit later about how things are going and how their operations have evolved. But this is data, again, from Michael McInerney. And the thing that leaps out is just sort of how many pies publishers have their fingers in. They're doing editorial recommendations. A lot of them are doing shopping. A lot of them are also doing deals. A lot of them, are thinking about building toolbars. And this again speaks to the sort of level of sophistication and competitiveness that's starting to define the way this channel works. And speaking about thinking about evolving complexity, let's talk a little bit about next year. Before I dive back onto the ground with affiliate, I do want to zoom back up and talk about the economy and about retail e-com. So, like I said earlier in the presentation, retail e-com grows more or less at about 10% a year. We expect that it's going to grow. I think it's going to have CAGR of about 10.2% through 2027. And that growth is being powered really not at all by incremental user growth. I don't know anybody in my life who doesn't buy things on the internet. Does anybody in here know anybody like that?
Does not.
Does not. Whoa. What's that like?
My parents.
I wish my parents didn't buy things online.
Spend a dime on the internet.
Good for them. But it's all to say, most of this growth is from all of us spending more money on the internet. We expect that this year, per digital buyer, we're going to have retail e-com sales in excess of $5,000. That's going to climb over $7,000 by 2027. So what is implicit in this number? What is implicit in this number is that we are shopping more and more online. What happens when you do something more and more? You get more sophisticated. You get smarter about how you do it. Is that good for affiliate? That's the big question. I think you could point to a lot of what happens when you get smarter as a shopper and say this is absolutely good for affiliate. People do more research. People shop around. People bargain hunt. People look for sources that they can trust to learn more about products and goods and services. Those are all services that affiliate does well. Those are all things that affiliate, has powered that channel. But more sophisticated also means knowing a good deal when they see one and being willing to hold out for a good deal. This is data from Eagle Eye. Again, don't want to ask you guys to hurt your corneas, but basically these top two bars here represent nearly half of the respondents, and they basically say the same thing, which is that the biggest challenge with offers and discounting is coming up with a number that is going to be high enough that a consumer will bite, but not so high that it pinches my margins. That's been a problem. It's going to become a bigger problem. Again, you look at that slide I showed you earlier related to the performance across A1 and ShareASale, and that's just something that's going to grow more and more important. The other thing, when you talk about research and learning about new products, still for many people that often involves Google, and Google is getting fussier and fussier and more particular about what good commerce content is and what it looks like. This is sort of the most abstract slide I have in this presentation, but the 4 that's the number of updates that Google has made to what it defines as good commerce content. It's done this 4 times in the last 20 months. It's going to do it again. And what does this do? This makes commerce content more homogeneous. It makes it, which in turn sort of creates, I would say, more competition. If it's harder for a publisher to stand out in the way that they present their information, it adds a kind of sameness to it. It also makes it a lot easier for a third party to scrape and understand and ingest it for something that you might do a little bit later, like, I don't know, generative AI. This was the other topic. Again, I talked to nearly 24 people for this report. Every single person I talked to had questions about what generative AI means for this business. There is a version of the future where the most important kind of like channels and ways that we consume media will be powered by affiliate commerce and affiliate marketing. If we get to a future state where you just open up Bard or you open up ChatGPT and say, I got to go on a camping trip and I need to buy some stuff. What's the best camping stove? And Bing or whomever says, buy this Coleman one. It's great and it's on sale here at REI. And you just go click. That's a future state that's very possible. That's I think that's many years down the line. But it's all to sort of say that Gen AI is very much on people's minds, and people are very interested in incorporating it into their business. They are also, as you can see from this PMA data, a lot less excited about giving it real jobs. So basically, the PMA asked a bunch of its members in February how they're using Gen AI. They asked them again in August. By August, about 95% of their members were using it, and basically all of them had stopped giving it content creation responsibilities. They were not letting it create images for them. They were giving them, I would describe them as more junior tasks, cranking out email subject lines, trying it out for programming and coding. I bring all this up, to sort of point out that as kind of top of mind as it is, we are still very early when it comes to generative AI. And I think that that's really important because it's something that I think everyone would do well to sort of keep as far in the background as humanly possible. So this is data that I got from Ipsos. They have been polling American adults on a weekly basis on a whole host of topics, basically going back to the COVID pandemic. And one of the things that they got really interested in was Gen AI and how people feel about it. And the takeaway from this slide is that over the last 6 months, again, February to August, distrust in Gen AI when it comes to sort of producing things that we think of as human is climbing, and it is climbing fast. So you look at, basically the question that they asked was, if you found out that Gen AI had a hand in producing something, would that make you trust it more or less? The answer increasingly is less. Influencers, basically a full half of the respondents said that if they found out that Gen AI was involved in what influencers doing, they would trust them less. The thing that I think is so interesting about this is that this is even true for things that we don't necessarily think of as trustworthy. Because I write about advertising for a living, I am a cynical, jerk of a person, but most people, I think, even the most credulous consumer, understands that a television advertisement is designed to manipulate you into doing something. It's designed to make you buy a product. It's designed to make you feel a certain way. Even with that implicit understanding, if people find out that Gen AI is making their TV ads, they're going to trust it less. This is all to say that I think that Gen AI has a huge role that it's going to play in this ecosystem, but we're very early, and the kind of costs of putting it too front and center in what you do are potentially significant. So, just keep that in mind, I guess. And then finally, just retail media. I just want to kind of tag this because it's a bigger conversation to be had. But there's a world in which affiliate and retail could actually wind up being really good for one another. This is data that I got from the Path to Purchase Institute, just basically asking retail media advertisers which sub-channels within that space are must-buys. About a third, slightly more than a third, said affiliate. I would suggest that number actually is going to climb as more retailers start to sort of incorporate that into their RMNs. You'll see a similar phenomenon play out with connected TV, which again is a sort of a huge topic of conversation within retail media, but right now is sort of low because a lot of the RMNs are still ramping that up and making that something that you can fit into your operations. So in just a moment, we're gonna have some people who actually know what they're talking about up here, in Ned and Jessica and Liz, but just some key takeaways here. So like I said, competition is real, and it's here to stay. This is not a new industry. It's one that's evolving all the time, and it's very dynamic, but it's one where the kind of green fields are shrinking and shrinking. So you have to be ready to really fight for everything you get. Consumer behavior is always changing. I think the ways in which it changes are often surprising to people. I remember 2 years ago, everyone was convinced that live stream shopping was going to take over American e-commerce. It has plainly not done that. But BNPL, which I think when I first discovered, I thought would be sort of a fringe, sort of niche activity. No offense, Ned. But it has turned out to actually be something that lots of people are really embracing. So you just have to basically have all the assumptions that you have about consumer behavior written in pencil, not in pen. Gen AI, spent a bunch of time talking about it. Feel free to keep tinkering with it. Do not, make it part of your brand or part of your proposition. I would say don't do that yet. And that's partly because I think, at the end of the day, this is a channel that really puts trust kind of right at the very center of it. There are lots of other digital channels where that's not necessarily the case, but I think that's absolutely true, especially when we're entering a moment when so much more content is going to get flushed into our lives, thanks in part to Gen AI. So that's it for me. I want to now thank you guys for listening and welcome up Ned and Liz and Jessica.